Hey, everybody. This is literally our take 2 rolling. I forgot to hit go live earlier. Dena, I'm so glad you're here. Everybody, our resident, brilliant astrologer back again as we do these quarterly check-ins to take a look at the astrological weather report. And we've got a lot to talk about today. Dena, I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you, Jeff. And I'm so glad to be here. And I'll just take a minute to say hi to your audience and introduce myself in case you don't know me and you haven't been to one of these lives yet. I'm Dena DeCastro. I'm an evolutionary astrologer, meaning that the way that I look at astrology isn't just stuff that's happening to you. It's how can you work with the energies at play? How can you work with these planetary energies proactively? So what we're going to talk about today are the events that are going on in the sky for the next few months, with a little bit of an overview of the whole year from an evolutionary perspective. And I really like to offer people practices, rituals, intentions, things they can do to work with the energies rather than waiting for a predicted event, and as we've talked about before. But if you're new to my work, I'm not a predictive astrologer. I am a proactive personal development astrologer.
Yes.
So that's what I'm here to do. And you can find out more about my work at DeCastro.com. Jeff's also going to be putting links in the description as well, so you can find my work. So.
Yeah, you guys remember, this is not, as Dena said, this is not predictive. This isn't causal. It's not, this is what's going to happen because these planets are here and there and the arc and whatever. This is an overview of the potential, the energetics that are actually out there working with us and being proactive and knowing what we can do to play with the energy rather than react and be all scared. It's a lot. Let's be clear. A lot is happening right now.
A lot is happening right now. And I'd like to shed some light on that. I mean, that's one thing that astrology can be helpful with, is giving us context and also helping us to reframe what we're feeling. It could be helpful to know, for example, we were just talking about before you hit record, there's going to be several planets lined up in Aquarius at the end of this month and through the early part of February. So what does that mean for us? How can we use that energy wisely and not fall into the unconscious or the shadow way of playing that out? That's my aim with this information.
The information takes us from reacting from the place of the victim to standing in our power and feeling empowered with respect to where we are with regard to our natal charts and what's going on in our world, as well as collectively, and how we can work together with all of that energy. So yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. Hi, everybody. It's so good to see you all here. It's been a while. We've missed you. Hi, Vanessa, Denise, Evan is here. Hi, honey. Subi, it's good to see you. Hi, Susan and Liz and Sophia and Fogo Pogo. Kaylee, hi.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah, let's start. Let's start talking.
Let's do it.
Talk to us.
So I think, firstly, I just want to check in with you and see what is your intuitive feeling about this beginning part of 2026? And then I'm going to weave in some astrology to it. I want you to take a little bit of the lead here, as an intuitive.
Well, personally, I have so much happening in this moment. Completely synchronous with what is happening in my chart.
Yes.
And there are two ways I could view this, which one is from the absolute state of fear. Oh my God, what am I going to do?
Right.
Which, let's be honest, there's a little bit of me that's like in that total moment of pure panic. But at the same time, like Dena and I were talking a couple weeks ago, seeing this actually playing out in the chart is so empowering. And it's so wild to recognize what is really happening energetically versus all synchronistically on my inside with respect to what's happening collectively as well. And so there's just a lot happening right now, and it's hard. It's hard for all of us. There's a lot of big planets moving into big house or big what is it? Houses? No, signs.
Signs.
Yes. And collectively where we are as a country, lots happening. Lots. But it is here's what I know. As above, so below. What is within is without. And we have the choice, the option to choose. We are going to stand together and be better. We are so much better together and come at it from a place of empowerment and strength and love. What would love do in this moment, right? Yeah. So I'm taking all of this collectively and within my own self by, reminding myself to give myself grace as I move through these big new steps that are happening with me. And it's awesome. And it's also a reminder to give ourselves collectively some grace with what is happening right now, because we more than ever have to come together in this time. And it is going to get better. It doesn't seem like it right now, but it is going to get better. It might take some time, but this is why we are all here. This is why we all come to stations and channels like this with Dena and myself and all of our colleagues, Kevin and Debbie and all of them, right? So thank you for being where you are. Thank you for having the courage to awaken and recognize all of that which is out of balance and out of whack, and standing up and being willing to stand together. Yeah, thank you. So that's what I feel. I mean, that's all what's happening right now. So on my insides, my take.
Yeah. I hear in there, I feel like these next 2 to 3 months are a really crucial period in terms of the collective, in terms of our country, in terms of us personally. And what's coming up here with, last time we met, we talked about Saturn and Neptune being at the end of Pisces and wrapping that up. And boy, are we seeing what that means and looks like, because Pisces is the last sign. It's about letting go. It's about surrender. It's also about things coming to an end. And Saturn, one of the planets that's going to be moving into Aries in February, is wrapping up. It's in its final month as of today, going over the next month in Pisces. What does that mean? Old structures are dissolving. Pisces, a water sign, is a force of dissolution, dissolving. And so you can see that, like you said, it's above and below, it's within, it's without, it's at the macro and the micro level. What we're seeing in the culture is also happening inside of us and in our lives. The difference, though, between what's happening on the collective and what is happening to each of us in our lives is that we have more free will to assert as an individual on how we deal with these energies, right? So the choices that we make over this next month ought to be around consciously dismantling the things that the structures specifically in our lives that are no longer working, and letting go, releasing, shedding, because the rebirth comes fully when both Neptune and Saturn have moved into Aries, the sign of new beginnings. And that begins to happen at the end of January when Neptune moves into Aries, January 26th, starting a whole new 165-year cycle around the wheel, because it takes that long for Neptune to go around. So Neptune in Aries is about spiritual courage. It's about fighting for what you believe in. And we're heading into a 13-year. See, did I? Shoot.
Oh, yeah. Oh, are we heading into a 13-year something?
Yes. I hope I come back here on the screen. Gosh. Um, heading into a 13-year time of being in Aries. So that is the new beginning of, our spiritual focus. I'm going to go ahead and let's.
Uh-oh. Oh, I guess she's stepping out for a moment. So as she was saying, this new time frame, these planets are so far out there, Neptune and Saturn, they're so far out there. They take so long to get around the sun. So with Neptune, that's a 13-year span. Or is it Saturn? She was just talking. I don't know. One of them. It takes a long time. So it's going to be in this. It's going to be in this sign for quite some time. And this is the opportunity for serious change, real change. Come on, Dena, come back. So let me just, okay. So this is coming from now. I know a little bit about astrology. Here's what I know. But these planets are going into Aries. Aries is the first sign in the entire zodiac. So we think about the number one. Number one is about the leading. It's about starting something new. It's about stepping up into our own power. It's about leading ourselves from the inside out, leading others from the inside out, from that place of a collective whole. And the Aries, if you think about is it the goat or is it the whatever that goat, I think it's the goat with the horns. Think of the horns, that those things put their head down and they charge. That's Aries. That's the energy of Aries. And that's where we start to make change within ourselves. Think about when you have this divine inspiration, you're like, oh, that's this great idea. And you start to receive those downloads and you start to plan. You're like, okay, this works. This feels good. And you're feeling nudged by spirit and you start to head in that direction. You put your head down and you focus and you go. So Neptune is a very spiritual planet. It's the planet of illusion. So we have to be careful and we have to be aware that it can be easy to get caught up in the illusion. Let's think about the illusion of just being a human being. We know first and foremost at the very core, we are a spiritual, unlimited being. But powerful, right? We know that is the reality. But here we are living in this 3D world. Ooh, and it's hard, right? But this is the dream. And it's hard to remember that because it is so real. It is so real. The pain is real. Oh, it's hard. But ultimately, this is the illusion. And it's coming from that place on your insides, recognizing the strength that we are on our insides, the true strength that we are, that powerful, unlimited being connected to the divine source, right? And there's where we just surrender to that truth and be like, okay, I'm going to step out of the illusion. I'm going to examine my options. We're going to work on this together and we're going to put our head down and we're going to go. Neptune is awesome. Neptune is also that planet where we, our spiritual connection, our psychic awareness, our psychic senses, Saturn going into Aries. Now, Saturn is the you think about Saturn as the father figure, the father that I had one lady describe this Saturn to me once as, you think of the rings around Saturn and Saturn the father putting his arms around you in a way that lovingly kind of keeps you contained a little bit. So you don't kind of like fly off the rails and get distracted. kind of keeps you in line, keeps you focused, keeps you in your lane. That's the discipline. We have to recognize and focus on our own discipline within and without, with each other. And Saturn, the shadow side of Saturn can be difficult. I mean, that can be a real doozy for a lot of people. But to recognize it from that place of archetypes and find that space where we see it through the eyes of spirit and recognize that these are archetypes with which we can grow in. And when we see the archetypes of Saturn and Neptune going into Aries, coming out of Pisces, Pisces is the airy, Pisces is the super, can be super emotional, very flowy water. And we're going into a real fiery sign. So that's my take on that part. Dena, where are you? Dena also has in her notes, let me talk about this, you guys. So igniting the new chapter. So the nodes and their eclipses coming up too. Okay, there she is. There she is.
My computer completely crapped out. And I had to go get my iPad, and so I'm now on my iPad. But can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I can hear you. This is going to be what we do.
Okay. It's awesome. It's totally okay. So, I spoke about Neptune and Saturn going to Aries.
You did great, Jeff. You did great.
And so now we're on
this.
We're on the nodes and the eclipses. Go.
Okay. So let's come back to my outline. I'm so sorry about that. I have no idea what happened, but let's move forward. So we're on, you said the Mercury retrograde and the eclipses.
Yeah.
Okay. So really what's interesting about the pattern of this year is there's all of that energy with fire and Aries, that you were talking about. And then we have as a counterpoint the fact that there are 3 Mercury retrogrades and all in the water signs. And that's going to be a reminder for us that, while fire and air are about action and the intellect, and they're very yang elements, water is a yin passive element of flow. And so it's going to be important, especially during the first Mercury retrograde period that's coming up, which is February 25th through March 20th, Mercury retrograde in Pisces, to be aware that, yes, after all of this activity that we're starting the year with, after all of this chaos and frenetic feeling that we might be caught up in, it's going to be important to take a step back, to regroup, to rest, to reconnect to our soul. And so it will be important to intentionally rest. I have a feeling we'll need it by then. These first couple of months of the year for many of us have started off quite high energy. So that first Mercury retrograde set some time for retreat, for going within, for solitude, or for just being around the people that really nourish you during that window of time. And so that's, the first Mercury retrograde as it plays into the shift in energy into fire and air. And you didn't talk about eclipses yet, right? So sorry.
That's okay.
The eclipses are happening during that same window. So this next 3 months, we have both a Mercury retrograde period and an eclipse season lining up together at the same time. So we have that Mercury retrograde, which I mentioned, starting February 25th, but also there are 2 eclipses. One is February 17th, and one is March 3rd. And both of those, in that period between them, are activating. One is activating the air fire theme that we have already been talking about. That's the February 17th eclipse in Aquarius. And that's the first eclipse in this new eclipse cycle on the Leo Aquarius polarity. Why that's important is that eclipses run on the polarities about every 2 years. So it takes 2 years to go through a pair of signs roughly, and they kind of overlap. And so it's starting to do that overlapping thing out of Pisces and Virgo, where those eclipses have been for the past couple of years, and into Aquarius, Leo. And Aquarius and Leo, Aquarius as an air sign is about communication, connection. But more broadly, it's about our connection with groups and like-minded people. And that solar eclipse in Aquarius on February 17th is really impacting us in terms of taking a moment to consider who do you need to be connected with going into this next 2-year cycle? Who are the groups of people you want to gather around you? And what like-minded people do you want to associate with? It doesn't mean stay in your bubble. It's not really what I'm saying. In fact, I'm saying consider the bubbles that you're already in, and maybe start branching out into other communities that you might not have even thought of being a part of. So community and collective action is going to be a key theme starting this February. It's already coming in. We're already, like I said at the beginning, we are going to see a huge grouping of planets in Aquarius at the end of this month, January, which really harkens to that eclipse that's coming in February. That's the solar eclipse in Aquarius, and then Leo on the axis. The opposite sign is always involved in the eclipse. So Leo on the axis is about self-expression. It's about creativity. It's also about joy and celebration. And, as a Leo, you're like, yeah, I like to bring that to the party. It is tapping into what brings us joy and what makes us feel like sharing of ourselves with others. Both signs on the sides of a polarity, they go together for a reason. So celebration and joy and self-expression connects nicely to gathering up with groups and sharing with each other. And that also can be a big theme of these next 2 years is knowing that when we are connected to those who share a purpose, with whom we share a sense of kinship, we have reasons to celebrate, and we will have reasons to celebrate, I think. The second eclipse of this pair, though, is still wrapping up the Pisces-Virgo polarity, which is March 3rd, and that is a lunar eclipse in Virgo, total eclipse. Lunar eclipses are more to do with shedding and letting go, the end of the cycle. This is towards the end of this eclipse cycle. I think there's just one more in the fall in this cycle. But Pisces and Virgo, for those of you out there with Pisces and Virgo in your chart, this, it's an interesting polarity because the Virgo part is to do with our perfectionism and our need to have things in order and get it right. Now, that can be a plus and a minus. As Jeff and I know, we both have our South Node in Virgo. The plus of it is we can be very attentive to detail and creating order in our lives. And around that period, it's a time to look at what are the organization systems that you have in place, what's working and what isn't. In terms of maybe your daily habits, your health regimes, the ways that you organize your daily life and spend your time, what really is and is not working. It's time to start releasing those things that are not. The Pisces part of that polarity, Pisces is all about, as opposed to Virgo being about control and perfectionism, Pisces is about surrender and acceptance. So it's going with the flow of what is without judging. And that is a challenge for most people. That's a challenge for most of us, right? But it is a big lesson that we're learning collectively right now with the North Node transiting through Pisces and these eclipses still happening on the Pisces Virgo polarity. And again, that one in March will have the sun still being in Pisces. So if you have Pisces Virgo in your chart, and if you have Aquarius Leo in your chart, either of those polarities, those eclipses that are happening in February to March are going to be more impactful for you. And again, in terms of my work, if you have questions about how any of this lands in your personal chart, you can always get a special focus reading and we can talk about, where exactly those eclipses are, where any of these transits are happening. Jeff, do you have questions or thoughts about any of that piece?
Susan asked, when do the nodes change this year? Did you just talk about that with regard to March?
I did not, but yeah, it's so essentially, I will look up the exact dates of the nodes changing, but it's in July in 2026. And it's so we'll cover that when we get there. But it is coming because the nodes follow the eclipses. They tend to change at the same time.
Got it.
So yeah, July 26th is when it changes to Aquarius Leo. And that shift happens about every 18 months or so, approximately. So they don't exactly line up with where the eclipses are, but they tend to follow closely. Yeah.
For those who are unfamiliar with the nodes, that's not really something that we've really spoken about over the last. I mean, it's relatively new, isn't it? It's relatively more coming into the awareness. Just a quick overview of what the nodes are.
Great. Yeah. So this is a big part of my work. As an evolutionary astrologer, we work with the nodes in the natal chart a great deal and the transiting nodes. And the nodes are points in space, technically. They are where the ecliptic meets the north trajectory of the moon versus the south trajectory of the moon as it goes in orbit around us. So that's the technical definition. And what it means symbolically in terms of my branch of astrology, the south node has to do with the past life or karmic pattern that you are here to release, the things that you are ready to shed and to let go of in this life, because you have done it to death so much in a past life. And it is a pattern that actually is keeping your soul from growth. So the whole idea of evolution is that we're growing because we're changing, because we're challenging ourselves. And the North Node tells us, what is it that we're here to learn about that we have not experienced before, that is going to stretch us on a soul level, because we haven't done that pattern in a previous life. It's all new. So I use the example of Jeff and I being in the same age group. So the nodes change signs every year and a half or so, right? So Jeff and I are born within like a year of each other. We have the same nodes, and that means, for us with Virgo South Node, we have done that pattern to death of the past life perfectionism, right? And the North Node is the challenge. And, the North Node for us in Pisces in this life is about learning to surrender and to let go and to be more accepting, not only of circumstances, but also of ourselves. And we talked recently about the nodal return, which is important. If you have nodes in these signs of Pisces and Virgo, you're having a nodal return during this period, which means all of these karmic themes are going to be coming up for you, if you're born in this time frame. Yeah.
Literally, it's so fascinating. You guys, if any of you out there are 55/56, you're in our sandbox with us.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. And it comes around every 19 years or so. So even those like 19 years younger than us going through the same thing. with these nodal returns. So it's important to track the nodes and like when they're changing signs. But that's a great question. And I also have a free ebook on the topic of the nodes, which tells you about, it helps you to calculate your node signs. It tells you a bit about what those nodes mean for you and how to work with them. So you can find that on my website too. And Jeff can put the link in the, yeah.
I will.
So it's a really helpful free ebook on the topic.
Yeah. Guys, I highly recommend this. This additional information is so incredibly fascinating, and it's to know that bit about yourself is so helpful. And Susan, thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, if you're 74, 75, you're in our sandbox too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's really, it is. So let's see, what did I want to be sure? So I missed, when you were talking, Jeff, so kindly taking the reins. No, you were not. I mean, I heard parts of it and I'm like, oh, he's pretty much right on. With the Saturn in Aries and Neptune in Aries piece, I just wanted to go back and emphasize that both of those coming together in a conjunction, which is going to be exact on February 20th, right after Mercury, or right before Mercury goes retrograde and right after the eclipse, we have the coming together of Saturn and Neptune, which only happens every 37 years. And I have to tell you, it would have been hundreds of years since it's happened at 0 degrees Aries or more. Like I'd have to look back in the hundreds of years are ephemerides. But basically that means, the 0 Aries degree point is about birth. It is the first degree of the zodiac wheel. When you put all those symbols together, Saturn is about the structure, Neptune is about the spiritual calling and connection with spirit, and 0 degrees Aries is about rebirth. And when I put that together for myself, I'm like calling to a new structure that supports a deeper connection for me with whatever source is to me. On the collective, we're going to see again the shedding of old structures that don't serve, that have outworn their use and their time. We can see, some of that already starting to happen. It's a PowerPoint, in the year, this Neptune Saturn conjunction. And wherever it is in your chart, it's saying this is where you are being called to service to something greater than yourself, right? And to devote yourself to something.
Yes.
Whether that be in your career, Jeff, you're going to be sharing your work more widely, and devoting more time and energy to that. For me, I'm going to be devoting it to, continuing to do my readings, and also, my own creative pursuits alongside of that, kind of those two things. But what I want to encourage each of us to do, especially in February, is take the time to get clear on what is really calling you, what is the desire, and what is it showing you about what you really want to spend this next big chunk of your life doing. Because that's Saturn too. Saturn is thinking for the long term and thinking in terms of how do you want to spend your time and energy, right? Wow. Let's make a conscious choice about it. Let's make a commitment and a devotion with that energy. Yeah.
Yeah. Where are you being called to? Where are you, what lights you up from the inside out? I mean, is it animals? Maybe you want to spend more time volunteering for the Humane Society or the ASPCA, or maybe you're so dialed into animals. Maybe this is a ping for you to find that teacher that is the animal communicator and start, developing your own spiritual connections. Maybe that's how you're in service. Maybe you're wild about kids, and maybe you have this this innate, inherent connection, and that's where you are being called to serve. I mean, the ways to be in service are infinity.
Absolutely. Yeah. Um, and I think service is an important theme because of Neptune's presence there. And, think back on the last few months since the last time that we met, the last time that we did a live here, if anybody was here then. And with Pisces, we talked about, with all the Pisces energy, the empathy, waking up and feeling, um, you know, the sadness, yes, but also compassion stirring and empathy stirring, and notice where that's pulling you. That would be the message. Notice where the
Oof.
Pisces has been pulling your heart. That is where now to turn around and invest your passion toward helping, fighting for, and working on behalf of. Um, because you've been awakened to what is important to you, what you care about, not just yourself, but beyond yourself,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I know this audience gets what I'm saying there.
Um,
Um, yeah,
Speaking of, audience gets what you're saying. This made me
yeah.
giggle. Mary, thank you, Mary. So Mary says some of this has me lost as a ball in high grass.
Oh,
So Mary,
I'm
ask
sorry
ask
about
a
that.
question. I ask a question. Seriously,
Yeah,
where throw something at us where you're
yeah.
feeling a little bit lost. Hypnicity. I love what she said. She's 65. My nodes were in retrograde, not sure what that means. And I think
Oh,
this is really
okay.
fascinating too. I just learned this from Dena the last time we spoke a few weeks ago.
Yeah, so the nodes are generally always moving retrograde. So that's not unusual. It actually would be unusual if they were moving direct, which they only do for very, very short periods at a time. But the nodes moving retrograde is how they move through the wheel.
That's their
So
normal direction.
nothing weird. Yeah, nothing weird about that. Yep. Yeah, it's just their normal direction.
So if they were in
Yeah.
retrograde when we were born, they're actually going the way the planets are going.
They're going against the way that some planets are going. And remember that some planets go retrograde, or all the planets will go retrograde at some point for short
Eventually.
periods of
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Except for the sun and the moon. Yeah. And
Interesting.
that's all technical stuff that you don't have to get too worried about or caught up in. Like, so if you're feeling lost, it may be that, I may have been using terms like eclipses or polarities that sound really technical. Eclipses are when the sun and the moon, either come into an exact opposition or they're in the same spot in the chart. I mean, and that happens every 6 months. The polarities are just opposite pairs of signs. So, we can break any of these things down into more simple terms. And yeah, feel free to ask any questions that of anything I've said you're unclear about for sure.
Yeah, please, you
Um,
guys. Mhm.
yeah. Are there any questions about anything I've said about what's coming up and how to use the Mercury retrograde time that's coming up, the eclipse season that's coming up? A lot happening between now and April, really.
There really is. There really
Yeah,
is.
yeah. With
Um,
with February being a big pivot point or a peak.
hugely,
Yeah,
hugely.
yeah.
I mean, on so many levels. Kaylee says she's taking Kevin's mediumship course in February. Yay,
Mhm.
Kaylee! Well done. Keep going. And a healing with tuning forks class. Okay, that's awesome. And she loves the correspondence with the timing. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's a great time to invest in taking your skills to the next level to prepare, um, especially in something like mediumship, which is very Pisces. We're going to have Pisces season, meaning the sun's going to be in Pisces in February to March. We're going to have the Mercury retrograde in Pisces. Pisces is the sign I most associate with mediumship. So I think that goes really hand in hand there. Yeah. Because Pisces is the part of us that can open up to the unseen world,
Yeah.
the
And isn't
invisible world.
Neptune,
Yeah.
isn't Neptune the ruling planet
Yes,
of
it is.
Pisces? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Neptune's energy is going to be very pronounced during the whole month of February because of its connection with Saturn during the whole, the Saturn conjunction there in the heart of February. Yeah. So I think, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just thinking about everything happening this next month, and everything that's happening so synchronistically. I pulled a card for us while you were talking just a little bit
Yeah.
ago, and literally, it's synchronicity
Absolutely. Yeah.
and destiny. This card is it speaks to our destiny together and individually, simultaneously, as above, so below, like we talked about earlier. We are
Right.
fated things we cannot control with, where
Mhm.
we were born, who we were born with, all that good stuff. But it is our destiny to wake up and follow that spark within for the highest good of ourselves, following that little nudge from spirit, the highest good as a
Yeah.
collective, where we can all be seen and heard and recognized, and fairness and equality, all that good stuff. That's the direction that humanity is going, and that's where a lot of this challenge and struggle stems from, because it's been such the polarizing opposite, where power over has taken precedence over the empowerment of us collectively together, working together. And that's what's happening right now. That's where we're coming into that, where we're recognizing we're so much better together, and that the power over the oppression, all that stuff, it's all coming to the surface, and it's turning into this, mama.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that that we had mentioned before is this Aquarius, this concentrated Aquarius energy that's happening really the last week of January and the first week or so of February. And why that's important to right now is, yes, the faster moving planets can line up in a sign not that far apart. Like it could happen every year or so, or 2 years, where we get kind of a bunched up group of planets. But this is the first time that all of these planets will also be with Pluto in Aquarius. So there's going to be 5 planets, including Pluto in Aquarius, because Pluto just entered Aquarius for the first time in over 240 something years. So that that Aquarius archetype is about coming together with groups, being part of a cause, working on the behalf of humanity, with the brotherhood, sisterhood of the human race. And it's about the interest of the group versus self-interest. So,
Ooh,
like
I
Bob
love that.
said, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one.
Yeah.
It is that. I mean, it is that Aquarian mentality that we work together on behalf of the collective, not for purely self interest. And so that there are a lot of things coming together around that polarity of Aquarius Leo. If you think of Leo, the shadow side of Leo, which is where the eclipses are going to be happening coming up. The shadow side of Leo is self-interest. It can be, you're like, okay, I've seen it once or twice. Um, as a Leo, like, yes, you could see this in yourself popping up, and it depends on how much you're doing your work, whether you can keep that in check, right? That purely self focus of, hey, me, me, me. Now, we have certain people in the public eye who shall remain nameless that have a lot of Leo in their chart, that you can really see the shadow side of that coming up, about it's just all about me, 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 right? And so Aquarius is the opposite of that. Aquarius is the antidote to that. It is about thinking of the group first, not second. Thinking of how can I help make things better for all of us, even if sometimes we have to sacrifice some things in the moment,
Mhm.
even if I don't get all the glory or the attention, right? It's not about getting our name out there or, becoming famous on the internet. It's about really looking at how can I help move us all forward together,
Yeah.
right? And that's what Aquarius coming into play is about. And it's coming in to really heightened focus the end of this month and the beginning of Feb.
So I'm just going to continue on with this
Yeah.
trail of thought that I just had while you were talking about this, because the shadow Leo, for me,
Yeah.
like for the Leo, think of Leo the lion, the king of the jungle, right? The majestic king of the jungle. The shadow side is that think of the shadow king. The king that is the oppressor, that is taking everybody's resources in taxes and keeping it all for himself. The shadow king that doesn't care about people's well-being or equality, fairness, all that good stuff. Think of, for those of you that watch Game of Thrones, think of King Joffrey. That's the shadow king, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and I love what Evan asked here, and correct me, but this is just off the top of my um, head here. But Evan asked, what happened 240 years ago when this conjunction last occurred? My immediate thought goes to the where we disbanded from the oppression of the King of England, and we all came over here to the United States and created this, for the people, we the people, all that good stuff. Does that sound?
Yeah, so exactly. So we were in the middle of the American Revolution the
Yeah.
last time Pluto was in Aquarius, and we had just begun that process, and we're in the kind of the middle of that war during the last time that Pluto entered Aquarius. So when we've had clusters of planet around this point, we were in a revolution,
Mhm.
and you know I've been listening to a lot of news this week that I really haven't wanted to, but what one of the things that I'm taking away is like we as a country and as a people, we are extremely resilient. We have been through these cycles before. None quite this pronounced astrologically as we are in right now. And I have talked about it, I think, even with you, the Pluto return and, the Pluto coming back to where it was when the nation was born. That's essentially what already started a few years ago and is, continuing here. But I really feel like this hope, that it's not about revolution. It is about revolution, but it's the revolution of coming back to our roots and remembering who we are. And that's what's happening. And that's what I have hope about. And that's what I think for each of us individually, what we can do is to remember our true selves
Yeah.
and be
Yeah.
authentic in our
Yeah.
interactions. Really come from that place of what each of us has to offer in our own individual genius. That's also an Aquarius thing, our own individual genius that we can offer to the collective as gift
Yeah. Oh,
and remembering it. Yeah.
yeah. Lori Christine says the Buddhist monks and their dog Aloka are on a
Mm.
walk for peace. They've walked from Texas and will end the walk in Washington, D.C. They are walking for
Yeah.
our country and the entire world. That is so beautiful.
It is really beautiful. I've been keeping tabs on that. And little Aloka had a surgery. Um, he, but he's doing okay. But I mean, I've been following it that closely too. I'm like, oh no, Aloka had a surgery. Um, what I feel about that is it's a very much tail end of Pisces phenomenon. It is reminding us, that it is about connection with source, with something beyond ourselves. Um, that that's what to focus on right now. And it's surrender of the ego. And that's what they're showing us too. That's with that walk, right? So yeah, I think it's beautiful.
Mhm.
It's opening
Also,
our hearts.
oh, it absolutely is.
Hmm.
It absolutely is, and I think that's a lot of the. Well, I feel that's a lot
Hmm.
of the fear, because when our hearts start to crack open, there's that feeling of vulnerability, and
Yeah.
when we awaken to the truth that you know that in who we are,
Hmm.
there's just so there's it's huge, and it's
Yeah.
scary. It can be, but when we have community with each other like we do here, and with all of the colleagues that have their channels as well, it's a place where healing happens, and awareness, and and healing. Did I say healing yet? And healing,
Hmm. It's healing.
yeah, having these conversations is awesome. And you know what, I saw
Yeah.
something, hang on, I just saw something. Hypnicity said, oh, Hypnicity said that she's been feeling stuck in COVID psychosis, been dealing with depression for about 4 years.
I'm so
Hypnicity,
sorry.
I think, yeah, I think that's a lot of us. I think that is a lot of
Yeah.
us. I think that obviously COVID was the impetus that really like cracked this whole thing, like, whew, like open. And a lot of us have been kind of stuck in that rawness that
Hmm.
COVID opened up for us, and trying to find our footing,
Hmm.
um and I understand that. I completely understand that. And I just
Yeah.
want to
I feel
encourage
like
you to hold on, keep going.
that period of time, like 2020 particularly, was a huge year astrologically too. A lot of new cycles came in, planets entering Capricorn and coming, there was this major conjunction between Pluto and Saturn and Jupiter. And so they all came together. Again, this theme of breakdown of structures and new beginnings. And um, it was, something that impacted all of us, and I think brought everybody's PTSD to the surface, if you have any, which a lot of us do. um, it was an extremely vulnerable time, and so it hasn't really, for many of us, gotten to feeling safe again. um, we haven't really had a chance to breathe, many of us, since then. So I do feel like we're still processing what happened in 2020, and it may be one of those things that we just keep, again, we have to keep working to, for toward the healing, and doing the work we know how to do, and reaching out for help
Mhm.
when we need. And I think it's important to speak on it and reach out like you're doing. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and Hypnicity, you said you feel very alone. I understand that too, but you just know you're here in this community. You're not. In the big picture, you're not. I understand that little picture can be hard. I've
Hmm.
absolutely been there a lot. Um,
Hmm.
wow, you guys, this has been a really, really great conversation.
Yeah.
A lot of potential for us in the big love, the higher levels, like the spiritual potential, the potential as a collective, huge. And it's going to take a lot of awareness, self-awareness, to stay out of that place of fear on our insides,
Hmm.
and really, take a stand for what we know is right,
That's
what
right.
we know to be
And I think,
true.
yep. And I think the message with all the Aquarius plus Aries energy is take action to reach out, to connect with the people that you find kinship with, that you feel like common ground with, and you feel supported by, and do the same for others. This is not a time to isolate. When I say especially with Mercury retrograde times, like take time to pull in and reflect. Yes, and there's people have different needs about solitude. Some people are more extroverted, some people more introverted. I'm personally really energized by being alone, but I want to encourage those of you who are wired to need connection and to be more extroverted to make sure to take care of that need and to group up, get in your friendship groups, get in your community, and meet new people, take the initiative. That's an Aries theme, initiative, to do that, especially in February to March. Yeah.
Well, we've said it once or twice here, but we are so much better together.
Yes.
We're so much better together. Dena, thank you so much for being here with us. Oh, you guys, so we do this quarterly, our quarterly check-ins, but Dena and I were talking right before we came on together, and we're going to meet again on February 18th at 11 a.m. Pacific time to take a little bit of a deeper dive with all of these planets that we were just talking about in Aquarius. Isn't that right?
Yeah. We're gonna
do
it.
Yeah, if you're not on our email list, please go ahead and sign up for that. You'll get the reminders. But we will be back, on February 18th to go into deeper conversation about all of this that's happening.
Yeah, and you can sign up for my list at DenaDeCastro.com, and you can also find those free ebooks, particularly the Nodes book that I was talking about, and all my other offerings there as well.
Yeah. Oh, and you guys, and for those of you in Marin, I always forget to promote myself.
I know, and I told you to do this.
So for those of you in Marin, I am doing my first in-person live mediumship demonstration at the Cine Lounge Tiburon, February 28th, Saturday, February 28th from 3 to 5 in the afternoon. And it launched less than 2 weeks ago, and there are 4 seats left. I'm like, what is happening?
That's awesome.
So for those of you in this neck of the woods in the Bay Area, if you feel called, if you feel that ping, please come see us, and I can't wait to get everybody a great big hug in person. There's so many people that I've seen on here and that I've done readings for, but I've not seen in person. And then the people who are, hearing about me for the first time and curious. So yeah, that's happening February 28th.
Fantastic. That is so fortunate for the people that live nearby. And hey, why not take a road trip? Why not take a plane trip to go see Jeff?
Yes. So. Yes, there are people coming from 4 states to experience this with me for the first time. And I'm just so grateful. It's a little overwhelming, but I mean, it's going to be amazing. Yeah. So you guys, thank you so much for being here. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Dena, I love you to smithereens, and
I love you too.
We'll see you again together on here February 18th. All right, you guys.
Yes, we will. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody.